Time, as it turns out, is the most valuable, non-renewable, perishable resource. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. Your primary job is to consolidate the largest amount of discretionary time to do and think of the only things that you can do and no one else can. When you run this properly, your business can earn more in one project than a year of grinding away as an employee. The key is to learn how to run your business. And the first step is to... What is up, everybody? Christo here. Today I'm going to talk about the 5 myths creatives tell themselves about entrepreneurship. Before I get going, I just want to thank today's sponsor, Gusto, an all-in-one platform that helps business owners with everything they need to take care of their teams. Make sure you grab a copy of your own downloadable workbook, How to Hire Your First Employee. It's a step-by-step guide on what you need to do when bringing on your first employee or contractor. Check the link in the description. Myth number 1, you need to do it all yourself. You got into your work because you want to create. You want to keep your hands in the work. Isn't it cheating or dishonest to have others do it for you? Well, your name and your brand are all over your work, and you want your clients to feel the passion come through what you've delivered for them. And what if your clients like your team's work better than your own and cut you out of the process? Many years ago, when I was still running my design agency, I got a new client who was in the tech space. His business was growing rapidly, so he needed external design help for branding and design work. He needed an agency to work with that could meet the demands of his company. Great, I thought. Now I felt compelled to let him know I couldn't do all the work myself. He smiled and said, "Chris, I don't need to know how you do the work. I expect you to hire people to do it." He was almost bothered that I was telling him this. After all, he was an entrepreneur himself, and he didn't do all the work. And that was a valuable lesson for me to learn. To the second point of clients cutting you out of the work to directly work with your team. Now, this is the situation that might happen, but it's not often because of the way that you think. It's not because they like their work better or because it's cheaper to work with them directly. It's usually because you failed in keeping the relationship. They feel neglected. So if you're not doing the work and you're not maintaining the relationship, then yeah, they might go elsewhere. So one thing you need to realize is that people hire people they know, like, and trust. Almost all sales are based on individual relationships. So as a business owner, make sure you don't neglect this aspect. So here are some things that you can do. Number 1 is don't take the relationship for granted. Treat the client like your other important relationships. 2, check in with them periodically. 3, celebrate important milestones, anniversaries, and things of that nature. A while back, a story I like to share with people is my real estate broker, someone who helped me purchase my house in Pacific Palisades. He would periodically leave messages on my office phone. Now, during the pandemic, I didn't go to the office very much, but on occasion I went to the office. I saw that flashing red light, so then I checked my messages. Lo and behold, it was Robert. And Robert says, "Hey Chris, it's Robert, just checking in with you. Fun fact, it's been 16 years on this very day that we helped you buy your house. I hope you, Jesse, and the boys are doing well. And just want to let you know, if there's anything you ever need from me, or if you know someone who's looking to buy a home, let them know." So unbeknownst to me, just 2 months later, my wife and I decided to move to Pasadena. Who else were we going to call? We're going to call Robert, of course. It didn't even occur to us to call anybody else. So his ability to stay in touch with us, to build that rapport, just to let him know he's been thinking about us, and his timing was impeccable. And that's how you maintain those relationships. So number 4, make sure that you're personal. Take note of important details and facts of the relationships of the people that you have. Myth number 2, you can't afford to hire help. Just work harder. Here's the fear that you have: financial instability and loss of control. Can you really afford to pay someone else's salary? What if things slow down? Will you have to take on more projects that you don't want just to pay for overhead? This is what I refer to as worst case scenario thinking. It's like doomsday. Instead of imagining all the positive outcomes, you obsess over how everything can go wrong. As Peter Drucker says, in business, all profit comes from risk. To be a true entrepreneur, you need to embrace risk and uncertainty as part of your entrepreneurial mindset. That's the difference between being an employee and a business owner. An employee goes home each night relatively confident that the next day will be similar to the previous day. They'll get the same paycheck every 2 weeks or so, regardless if they hit home runs or strike out. It's predictable and safe. Entrepreneurship, on the other hand, is inherently risky. You take on projects with no certainty of outcomes, expenses, or even profit margins. Sometimes you can work really hard to make no money. And so you build this into your pricing, your payment terms, contracts, and overhead. On the upside though, when you run this properly, your business can earn more in one project than a year of grinding away as an employee. The key is to learn how to run your business. And the first step is to adopt the proper business mindset. Myth number 3, I'm a creative, not a manager. You took the leap and started your own business so you could create, not to manage other people. Managing conjures up scenarios where you never get to do the fun stuff again. Instead, you're just trying to push other people to do the work you wanted to do. So here's the belief system. Doing everything yourself is the only way to ensure quality and to save money. No one else can do it as well or as efficiently as you. So let's break this down. Let's say that you're a graphic designer, even a really good one. Do you believe that no one else is as good as you? Are you the best in town, best in state, best in country, or maybe even best in the world? Okay, well, probably not. Not that good, right? So that means there are other people who are at least as good as you, if not better than you. And by hiring them, their work would be better. The problem is you can't afford to hire them and to make money. That's usually a sign that you're undercharging. A quick test is to do this. Ask yourself, how much would it cost to pay someone else to do comparable work? There should still be enough money to pay them and you and have 30% profit margins after you paid for everything. Let's take a closer look. So if you send out a bid or proposal that only covers your production costs, then whatever you spend to produce the goods, which is COGS, cost of goods sold, that means you would break even if you do it well. And oftentimes what happens is you don't run it well, so you actually spend more time producing the work, so you're going to lose money. Do this consistently enough and you'll go broke. So if we look at it, a lot of us will send out a bid, the cost to produce something, based on what it costs us to produce, the production cost. But we're really missing something here. We're not accounting for management, the overseeing of the work, and overhead. This could include rent, utilities, software licenses, things of that nature. The things that you need to pay for in order to be able to do the work. That is the true cost. Or is it? What about profit? Without profit, you can't account for uncertainty, or you can't build a better future for yourself and for your loved ones. So now when we add profit in, we're accounting for the true cost, and this is how you should be bidding. Let's talk about delegation for a minute. There's this belief that, okay, because you're the best in your company of one, you know how to do everything most efficiently and to the best of anybody else. And so when you hire someone, they might be at best, 50, 60, 70% of what you're able to do. We kind of look at that and say, well, why would I pay someone to do the work when I still have to manage them and they're still not doing all the work that I need? Aren't I losing out on productivity? And that's true if you hire one person. But something my business coach helped me to understand is when you hire more people, let's say 3 people, the total productivity that you're getting from hiring 3 people is 150% the capacity of what you're able to do. Now here's the cool thing. When you hire people and you manage and delegate the work to them, that frees up a lot of your time to do other more important things. So let's take a look at that. So when you have free time, that affords you the ability to do some planning, marketing, business, and personal development. You can finally finish that book that you've been meaning to read or to send out some new business emails. The best thing is it just gives you options as to how you spend your time. Again, Peter Drucker wrote in the book, The Effective Executive, that your primary job is to consolidate the largest amount of discretionary time to do and think of the only things that you can do and no one else can. And why is that important? Because you can make more money, but you can't make more time. Time, as it turns out, is the most valuable, non-renewable, perishable resource. Treat it accordingly. And even if you hire a team, you can also elect to only work on the projects that you care the most about. So one final note here. Anytime you can pay someone else less money to do something that you don't need to do for less money than you're worth, you should hire them. Otherwise, you're losing money for the company and being a bad steward of the company. To illustrate, let's take a look at this. Let's just say your EHR, your effective hourly rate, is $100 an hour, just for this example. So if you wind up doing your own bookkeeping and do the production work and the editing of your projects, then you're costing the company the difference between your EHR and what it'll cost for you to pay someone else. So for this illustration, maybe the bookkeeper costs $25 an hour, so you're losing $75 an hour for the company every time you do work that a bookkeeper can do. And besides, bookkeepers do a much better job of managing books than you do, if you're anything like me. And let's take a look at production art. So the difference between the $100 that you're worth or what you could charge out for and what you would pay a production artist, in this case $30 an hour, you're now costing your company $70 an hour. So let's make the decision to hire people who could do the work probably better than you can do for less money than what your effective hourly rate is. Myth number 4, you don't know what kind of talent you need. Sometimes you have more client work than you can handle. These are good problems to have, but that means you'll spend late nights, early mornings, and you'll have no time with your family, burning the candle from both ends, stretched so thin, things start falling through the cracks. This can lead to long-term burnout, and other times it's just crickets and no one's calling you. Do you need someone on a part-time basis as a contractor or fellow freelancer? Or do you need a full-time employee to be all in on the journey with you? So whenever you hire people, there are also some compliance rules and requirements you need to follow, so pay attention to this part. If you're an employer in the US, there are federal requirements that will apply to everyone, but there are also other requirements that may differ from state to state. So let's understand worker classification. Before you even start building your team, you need to think about what types of workers you need to hire. There are 2 main types of workers to think about here: independent contractors versus employees. An independent contractor owns their own business and usually enters into a contract with employers to perform a specific project, typically on a short-term basis. An employee, on the other hand, works on a regular basis for an employer. They work at a specific time and place set by you, the employer. They receive training, use your tools, and work-related resources, do work that is integral to your business, is subject to a large degree of control by you, and is generally paid a salary or hourly wage. As you might already know, it's becoming more common than ever for businesses to bring on contractors. Recent research from Gusto found the number of businesses using contractors has been growing 11% year over year, in part thanks to a tighter labor market and high inflation. On average, there's now 1 contractor for every 5 employees. Now, you might think it's less expensive to hire an independent contractor since contractors typically don't get paid overtime, receive benefits, paid time off, and there are typically no payroll tax obligations. Plus, there's often more flexibility in bringing on independent contractors to work with on specific projects with you rather than working for you full time. However, there are compliance and legal requirements about when someone should be considered an employee versus an independent contractor. This is a common error where new business owners get tripped up, and it can have a big negative implications if you get it wrong. The IRS offers specific guidelines on whether a worker should be considered an independent contractor or an employee. Here's the big question: how much control do you have over this person's work and hours versus how much independence do they have? Here's how the IRS looks at it. 1, behavioral. Do you control or have the right to control what the worker does and how they do their job? 2, financial. Do you control the business aspects of the worker's job? Example, how they're paid, whether expenses are reimbursed, who provides tools and supplies, etc. Are there written contracts or employee benefits like insurance or vacation pay? Will your relationship continue? Is the work being performed as a key aspect of your business? There's no magic number of things that makes someone a contractor versus a full-time employee. It's about looking at the whole picture and all the factors. A good resource to check is the IRS's Form SS8. Be sure to also check your state and local resources on this matter. Let's consider some exemptions here. If you decide you need to bring on an employee rather than an independent contractor, you need to figure out if they're exempt or non-exempt. An exempt employee is excluded from rules set by the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA. They don't receive overtime and may not be entitled to a minimum wage. A non-exempt employee is not excused from the Fair Labor Standards Act rules. they need to receive overtime pay if they work more than 40 hours per week. There's a common misconception that if you pay someone a salary, they're automatically labeled as exempt. Spoiler alert, this isn't true. Exempt status is linked to a person's salary and duties, how much independence they have over their work. Here are 3 conditions folks need to meet in order to be labeled as exempt, as outlined by the Department of Labor. 1. Salary level test. You have to get paid above a certain salary threshold for the year. Employees must be paid a salary of at least $844 per week. That's $43,888 per year. 2. The salary basis test. You have to receive a concrete salary that can't be changed even if you make a mistake on the job. 3. Duties test. You need to be an executive, administrative, outside sales, professional, or computer systems related role to be seen as exempt. However, you don't need to have one of those words in your job title. It's really about the tasks you perform every day that influence whether you're exempt or not. The Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, requirements are explained on the U.S. Department of Labor website. They can help you determine if your employees are exempt or non-exempt from earning overtime. Don't forget, if you start hiring people in other states, you need to be compliant with regulations in those states as well. Here are some starting points to look for. Note, you need to think about potential requirements at the federal, state, and local level. The wage and hourly requirements. You need to know about minimum wage requirements, overtime, meal and rest breaks, record keeping requirements, etc. Time off and leave. You need to understand what you're offering for paid sick leave, personal time off, PTO, paid family medical leave, etc. Benefits. You need to understand if your employee is in a state with state mandated requirement benefits, or if you're required to offer health, dental, vision, etc. If SMBs don't ensure they're compliant, there can be heavy financial penalties for non-compliance, anywhere from thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they grow based on the number of employees you have in your business. For example, if you misclassify an employee as a contractor, you may need to cover any unpaid wages and applicable taxes. Myth 5. Your talent pool is limited to the US. Well, COVID broke down the geographic barriers, and not just across the United States, but countries. The pandemic forced companies worldwide to adopt remote work models, so hiring international contractors became a natural extension of this new way of working. Companies realized they could effectively work with talent across borders. The use of global contractors is rising. Recent data from Gusto found the number of companies using international contractors has grown 11% from July 2023 to July 2024. Why are most businesses hiring international contractors? Hiring abroad helps U.S. small to medium businesses find talent on a budget, especially in a historically tight labor market. 86% of small businesses do it to manage costs. 58% of small businesses hiring globally do it because they can't find talent at home. Onboarding, paying, and managing contractors abroad is, thankfully, easier than you think. Now, you might be worried about tax compliance, and if your contractor fills out the federal W-8BEN form and you keep it on file, you may be able to avoid having to withhold taxes from their paycheck. You might be worried about extra admin. Cut down on extra admin by consolidating all of your payment tools in one place. You might be worried about figuring out how to pay international contractors. There are 2 types of services. One is very basic, just money movement. Others, like Gusto, will handle money movement, plus also help you with tax compliance, onboarding, and contractor management. While many SMBs hire global contractors, some might also need to hire global full-time employees. A service called an employer of record can help you do that by handling payroll, HR, and global compliance, so you don't have to create a new business entity abroad or become an expert in international hiring. Before I go, I want to thank Gusto for sponsoring this video. Their support means we can continue to bring you relevant business content to grow your business. Gusto's an all-in-one platform that helps business owners with everything they need to take care of their teams. That includes payroll, benefits like health insurance and retirement, HR and team management tools, and compliance. Interested in learning more about hiring international contractors, freelancers, or employees? See how you can pay them quickly, accurately, and compliantly with Gusto. Okay, so you're ready to hire your first employee? What do you need to do? Our friends at Gusto put together a handy guide and checklist with everything you need to take care of so that you can hire someone the right way. Learn how you can do it compliantly while giving them a good experience so you look professional. It's one platform helping you to hire, onboard, pay, and manage your employees so you can focus on growing your business. Go here for more.